Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furrow, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
All right, welcome everybody to another Cloud Computing Career Q&A session from us here at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at Go Cloud Careers. And today I'm joining you from, all the way back there, the University of Tennessee at Martin, where we are filming additional new content with some professors here at the university for our amazing students. So I am joining in remotely. Well, I join in remotely every day, just like everybody else. But I am excited to be here from the studio here at the University of Tennessee. Again, welcome to another Cloud Computing Career Q&A. I guess I could have gone this way. That would have been a lot easier to go to my left instead of my right. But welcome, welcome, welcome. We come on YouTube every week to answer your questions about cloud computing careers, about the cloud architect job, about the cloud engineer job, about cloud architect training, about cloud career training. What is a cloud architect? What's cloud computing? What type of experience do I need to be a cloud architect? All these good questions. We come on here at least once a week to answer all of your questions. So the team on this stream has over 50 years of leadership experience, and we're here to help you build your best technology career. So let me do quick introductions for Mike, our founder and CEO. He's been in tech for 25 years and has held elite architect positions for 2 decades as a network architect, an enterprise architect, and a cloud architect. Of course, we've also got Alonzo, our chief marketing officer. He's an expert on marketing, branding, strategy, and leadership. And he has 30 years of marketing experience with major global organizations and has also led major cloud projects. He helps our students build that elite brand that makes the world come to them. And then, of course, as I said, we've got me. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer. I bring to you 15 years of HR and corporate operations and leadership experience. So, as I mentioned, we're here to help you. We're here to answer your questions. If you don't ask us questions, we can't answer the questions. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that we are here to answer your questions. We set aside this time specifically to answer your questions for free. You know, I want to emphasize that we're here to help you. We all hold MBAs. We all have the skills from our careers to help you not only get hired, but to put you on the path to long-term career success. So keep in mind, Mike has built such a reputation and has helped so many people build elite tech careers that he is in such high demand, it costs $1,200 per hour to speak to him. And we're here for free today, right now. So make sure to take advantage of that. Put your questions in the chat box. Let us help you, whether you've got questions about how we do training, whether you've got questions about what should I consider about transitioning to a cloud architect role, or, you know, what if you don't even know what role you want? Ask us your questions. Ask questions. That's what we're here for. So again, we're here for free to help you. So while we're waiting on some questions, Mike or Alonzo, you want to share any words?
Yeah, sure. I'll begin. I want all of you to know that you need to love what you do and live your best life. If Monday is not your happiest day of the week like it is mine, change careers. Life is too short. I used to practice internal medicine. I know how the game ends. So make sure that you love every day and live every day like it's your last. Now, one of the things that I love doing, I mean, I love tech too, don't get me wrong, and I've had, you know, quarter of a century plus experience in tech. I just love getting people hired. You know, almost every day somebody gets hired. I got my happy dance with my bad foot. Alonzo's got his happy dance. Chris has his happy dance. And we have that happy dance almost every day when somebody gets hired. And I used to be able to talk to people, but even for paid consults, it's 18 weeks to speak to me. So I try to dedicate at least 2 times per week. Once on this call, and the other is on tonight's How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, where you can ask us any questions, because I know that I had a coach early in my career, and I spoke to this coach, and I was a principal architect in less than 2 years. While everybody else was taking 10 and 15 years to get there, I got there in less than 6 months. My first job was a senior network engineer. I didn't start at the bottom, and neither do you need to. And that's why we're here, so you know how to get your first cloud architect job, how to earn more money in tech, how to crush the interview, how to earn an extra $100,000 more than you thought through a good interview and good negotiation process, and you can all do it. And it takes learning the right things, not the wrong things. It saddens me every single day. I find someone that's wasted 3 years on the way to be an architect, and they've learned every other skill other than architecture. And that's why we're here, to provide some free coaching services so you can leverage my 25 years in tech. My experience in helping people raise their salary by $100,000 or more. Alonzo's experience in marketing to help you build a brand that's so strong, Go Cloud career students generally don't apply for jobs. The world comes to them like vultures, and they want to hire them because they have such strong brands. And what Chris knows about HR and operations, he's like a wizard behind the scenes. I come up with big dreams, and Chris figures out how to get it done. And he can help you figure out how to get things done too. Because otherwise, Alonzo and I would just have big dreams and never get done. I promise you that right now. Because we all have super strengths, every one of us. So let's find your super strength. Let's help you get to your goal. And I promise you, the only thing that hurts most people is fear. Be courageous. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's what you do in spite of fear. So be like a Navy SEAL. Develop your courage. Go after the life of your dreams and go get it. And I want to help you get there. How about you, Alonzo?
Absolutely, Mike. I am thrilled to be here. This is Magnificent Mondays. So, people think that the end of the weekend is the end of positivity, the end of options, the end of enjoying your life. However, this is the time to seize your moment, seize your career, seize your life, and be able to get going and realize all the things that you want to do with your goals. And this is the thing that we love to do. This is why we're here, is to increase your opportunities to be able to enhance your career as a cloud professional, whether it's an engineer or an architect. We're here for you. So I'm ready to answer some questions, and let's get them in.
All right. So before I get to some of these questions, I just want to remind everybody, Mike mentioned it just a moment ago, we do have our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. We're actually doing one this evening. For those of you that have been asking for us to do one in the evening, we're doing one tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can register at the link in the chat and in the description. You can come and hear all about how we train and how we develop cloud architects. Whether you want to do it with us or whether you want to do it on your own after you hear our plan, that's perfectly fine. Either way works for us as long as you reach your goals. But we talk about the plan, we talk about how we developed it, why we developed it, we talk about what hiring managers want, we talk about the HR job descriptions and how crazy they are. We also then, of course, spend a great deal of time talking about what you actually need to know to be a successful cloud architect. So make sure to register for that. Again, the link is in the description. We'll be doing that tonight at Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Sorry, I'm in Tennessee, which is Central Time, so I'm a little off right now. So, so that will be 6 p.m. for me, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, we'll also be doing it on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time as normal. So make sure to take advantage of that. Also, this Friday, we're going to have another Winning the Interview webinar. We had one last Friday, which was a great attendance, great questions. Really enjoyed it. I know I'm looking forward to another one, hopefully just as fun as last Friday. Had some really sharp questions on there. So make sure to join that to learn the secrets to winning the interview, and not just the interview, but the resume itself. So join in on that. It'll be a great time. It'll be a good discussion. It'll be fun for everybody. You'll learn how to win the interview. You'll learn how we do it and how you can do it on your own. But I think we do it better. So make sure you come in and enjoy that. Link will be in the chat box and in the description as well. Last but not least, I want to remind everybody for a little bit longer, while we still have slots available, we have a discount countdown up to 50% off now. Previously, it was 60% off. That is gone. Not coming back. It is gone. The best discount available now is 50%. And it will be gone as well. Once it's gone, it's gone. So make sure to take advantage of this. This is on our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program that trains on tech skills, soft skills, and anything in between. It's got over 500 hours worth of training content, has three live classes a week for an entire year. So that's basically 100, 200, 300 hours worth of live classes for an entire year. If you take 3 times 52, which is roughly 150 classes a year, 2-hour sessions. Mike's teaching 3.5-hour sessions. But yeah, so roughly 300 hours worth of live classes that you have access to. take advantage of that discount. For the average cloud architect earns $800 a day. It's literally going up a couple of $100, if not $1,000 every week. Every time we're checking Glassdoor, that number is going up incrementally. But it breaks down to about $800 a day. So with this 50% discount for $1,249, less than 2 days pay of the average cloud architect, you get access to 500 hours worth of content, 300 hours worth of live classes, and an amazing community of people. I could go on and on about that community, but I want to make sure everybody is aware of that. So let's get to some of these questions now. Let's see. Up and Up says new content. Yes, new content from the professors coming soon to new programs and everything. So Alexis Sims. Good one. I like this one. If I did not attend college, can I absolutely get a job based on certification requirements?
Okay, Alexis, we got to help you out here. Now, we can help you get a job, and you do not need college. In fact, there's a video of Daniel Bosu. Maybe somebody can share it. He didn't even graduate high school, and we got him an amazing cloud architect job with JP Morgan Chase. But Alexis, I'm going to tell you right now, there's absolutely nothing in any certification that will ever get you any job. Now, if you tell us which job you actually desire, we can help you get there. But here's the problem. Certifications teach you a lot of things. Let's say we're going to talk about the AWS well-architected framework. What's wrong with it? Everything. So 98% of customers use multi-cloud. Guess what? That means 50% of the stuff that's in the AWS well-architected framework and certifications is completely irrelevant. Things like DynamoDB, Amazon Aurora, you can't use it. Next, in the certification or well-architected framework, they'll tell you to use CloudFront, say, for as a content delivery network. But Amazon won't use that for themselves because it's not enough. They use multiple content delivery networks. Now, AWS will teach you how to design on one cloud in a certification, but 98% of businesses use more. Now, let's talk about securing your enterprise, for example. AWS will tell you about AWS IAM. Nobody's going to use that. They're going to use a Microsoft solution plus others. AWS will tell you to use WAF. Guess what? No serious business is going to use WAF. They're going to use a next-generation firewall that's adaptive in nature, which provides enterprise-grade security. So the key is, Alexis, yes, you can get a great job without a degree, and we have people that do it all the time. Delroy Batt, for example, someone that we trained who had an associate degree only, got a great cloud security architect job. Robert Welch we trained recently, and he got a phenomenal cloud security architect job. Coyote got hired right after college at AWS. Ivan Tama got hired before he graduated any schools by AWS. And I can give you example after example of people we've trained and gotten hired without degrees. And like I said, Daniel Bosu didn't even graduate high school. And he's amazing. He's the son I always wanted. Honestly, I love the kid. And truthfully, I wish he was my son a lot of the time because his heart and mind is just so good and strong. Plus, he has 2 beautiful cats. And we all know I like cats. But the key is, yes, you can. But nothing in certification will prepare you for any job. Now, a certificate will help you get an interview, but never hired. So, Alexis, if you can tell me the job you want, I can tell you all the skills that you need to learn, and I promise you none of them are in certification. But I'll tell you what you need to learn, and I'll help you get hired. And you will get hired, and you'll have a job that will pay you more than you desire. Last year, our average graduates earned between $120,000 and $187,000 per year. And you can too, but it's a matter of knowing the right things, but they're not covered in certification.
Yeah, I agree there. The college is not necessary, and neither is certification. Neither one is necessary. It's just the ability to prove your competency and learning and gaining the competency. That's critical.
That's what matters.
I had the benefit. So when I was flying out here yesterday, there was a college student. She's going to Vanderbilt, and she's studying computer science. And she was coming back from a presentation in Philadelphia to Nashville, and I didn't have the heart to say, computer science. I'm not sure how much they'll be in that field long term, based on what you're focusing on, because her focus is on JavaScript and C++. But what stood out immediately was her ability to communicate with people.
She'll be fun.
and talk and relate what I didn't tell her anything about me. So she didn't know what I did or what I do on a daily basis, but she was able to communicate that information to me. And those are things that she did not learn in college. She didn't learn it. She didn't learn that at university. She learned that somewhere else. I am 98%
100%.
certain that was not something that she learned in her computer science program.
Yeah.
So I say this to say that the college degree is not necessary, but and the certification is not necessary. So, but it's the competency in getting the right skills. If it's tech skills, soft skills, leadership skills, business acumen, for whatever role it is that you want. So, because we don't know what role you want, but every single thing that I just said and that Mike just said would be relevant with with any career in cloud or tech, arguably, just in general.
But we need to know your career because the cloud architect skills, for example, cloud architects don't code, don't configure, don't touch the tech. They design, present, and sell technology solutions, and they get paid real well to do it. Likewise, a cloud engineer as a hands-on person might need to know how to code, configure, and other things. So tell us the job you desire, and we'll help you get there. We'll build you that roadmap right now.
Yep. Yeah, so I need more understanding on where to start and what cloud career will fit me. So the first question is going to be, what do you want to do? Now, if you don't know what you want to do because you haven't been exposed enough to what the different roles are and responsibilities, then I invite you to take a look through our YouTube channel. We have a lot of videos that talk about the different careers, the different roles, some of the responsibilities. And then also go on LinkedIn and find people that have been in various roles in the industry for long periods of time. Not people that have been in an engineer role for a year and then a 6 month and then a 9 month and then that's not going to get you a good idea of what engineers do. But someone that might be engineer for 3 years here, 4 years, 7 years, that type of thing. And same with architect or a DevOps, because if you're not familiar with the roles, you need to get familiar with the role so that you can then determine what do you want to do. We're not trying to be evasive, but we do not tell people what they do. We strongly believe that you should do what you want to do. Nobody should tell you what you want to do or what you can do. So.
And that's so. Alexis, please join us tonight for the Cloud Architect call. We will go over the Cloud Architect career. I'm going to tell you right now, the 3 best careers right now for which there's the most career options and the most money involve the Cloud Architect career. Mm-hmm. Cloud involves security, and they involve artificial intelligence. They're the 3 hottest careers. Engineering careers are dying for lots of different reasons. ChatGPT can code. So that's the end of the hands-on only tech people like a software engineer. A cloud engineer that does not have business acumen, leadership, sales, executive presence can be replaced with ChatGPT. You can see on our channel, we wrote Python scripts, we wrote Terraform scripts, we set up Linux machines, and we did it all with ChatGPT. But cybersecurity, here to stay. Artificial intelligence, here to stay. And the cloud architect, which pays the most out of all these careers, which is my favorite career, and because it has such high growth potential, is one that I think you might want to hear about. And tonight we're going to talk about everything you need to do to get that role, and that can be your first job. We've got example after example after example, but they're the 3 hottest careers with the highest salary and the most opportunity. But you got to do what you love. I used to practice internal medicine, Alexis, and then I decided I wanted tech more. And guess what? I did. 6 months later, I was a senior engineer. A couple months later, I was a lead architect and a principal architect in 2 years, which takes most people 15 years. Why? I had a guide. I found some really experts, somebody that had like 20 years experience at the time. And I said, what do I need to do to be just like you? And he told me, and I did everything he said. And guess what? Well, everybody else was floating around getting 1 million certifications and going nowhere. I was at the top almost overnight because of the guide. And I like to provide free guidance services. So please join us on how to become the ultimate cloud architect tonight. Wallace Agana, good to see you. Wallace Agana is a wonderful, wonderful person. He was a student of ours. He's now working at JP Morgan Chase as an enterprise architect. Every time I see Wallace, I smile. Wallace, thanks for stopping by. I'm thrilled to see you.
It's good to see you.
Speaking of Wallace, let me put a link in the. Let me find a link here. Let me find a link. I got a link.
There's a link to the video we did. Just knowing Wallace will enrich your life. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to put the link to the live stream. Let me do that. Because I like the live stream better. It's more raw. Link to live stream. Glad to see Wallace here. Wallace is he's working at JP Morgan Chase, right?
Yes.
No. Yes. I get confused on what people live stream with Wallace. I don't know. There we go. Put that there in the chat box for everybody. All right, so let's see. Vernon says, I am currently studying for the Google Cloud Professional Architect certification and was wondering what is the best option for real-life practice labs?
Okay, well, Vernon, you got to tell me which career you want. Because no hands-on lab will actually prepare you for an architect job, because architects design, present, and sell. So real architect things are designing solutions, reading financial statements, asking the right questions, determining requirements, responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, leading teams of engineers and architects, learning how to sell, learning how to present at conferences, learning how to write white papers, because that's what we do as architects. Now, if you wanted to be an engineer, we can tell you that, but we need to know. But there are no hands-on labs that will ever prepare you to be an architect. I mean, look, we have our students do about 20 labs on AWS and about 20 labs on Azure. And then we have our students do what I call real labs, like our students build the cloud. Because if you can build the Google cloud from scratch yourself, you obviously know how the cloud works. So Vernon, you need to let me know. Certifications just give you the name of a service and how to configure that service, which has nothing to do with what cloud architects do. Because watch, Alonzo, I have this lots of data and big data, and I know you've got all this data, and I want to put you in Google Cloud Big Table. You excited?
Not at all.
Now, Alonzo, I know that you're a large global bank. I know that you're dealing with roughly 2 million transactions per day, which has well exceeded what most relational databases can do. You've desired to move to the cloud, and the reality is you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So after careful consideration, we think we should put you in the AWS, the Azure, and the Google clouds. We've analyzed your traffic, and after our team has analyzed what you're doing a lot more writes than reads. Therefore, Apache Cassandra is probably your best NoSQL database option, and we can run that in AWS, Azure, and Google all at the same time, which means if AWS goes down, it doesn't matter. Google and Azure will still be up. And the only thing that could take your business down is a global internet catastrophe, which takes the entire world down anyway, which means your business will be operational and you won't have any problems. If Google raises your rates, guess what? You can drop them and go to Oracle because you're using standard solutions. Would you like to meet with my team further?
Absolutely, Michael. You gave me a really objective perspective and want to know more.
So Vernon, you can't use any of those ridiculous names that the marketing people of these companies made up. And cloud architects don't configure. They design, present, and sell a solution. And most of what we do is have those kind of conversations, which I just had with Alonzo. So there are great things that you can do as an architect. For example, our students design big banks. Our students design social media providers, healthcare organizations, places that have like 20,000 remote locations and use the cloud for transport. That's architect work. How would you design that? And how would you solve which problems? Increasing revenue, reducing expenses, improving supply chain. That's architect work. So tell me which career you want, because I don't know if you want to be an engineer or an architect, and they both require different projects.
All right, so I want to take the chance to remind everybody to make sure you put your questions in the chat box, whether they're questions about careers, questions about training, questions about us at Go Cloud Careers. Put your questions in the chat box. Let us help you. That's what we're here for. Make sure you get that opportunity. If you're here, ask us your questions. And again, Vernon and Alexis from earlier, if you can give us some more information about what your goals are, what your career goal is, let us know and put that in the chat box so that we can give you a bit more clarity. Let's see. So ET says, "Hi Mike, I recently laid off from a tech job. Company was reconstructing. What would you recommend staying motivated and to search for a new job?" Ooh, I like this question.
So ET, you were laid off. I'm sorry to hear that. But guess what? This is the best opportunity ever. You can now build your dream career. So be excited about that. Now, the key is if you've been laid off, you're going to have to do a few things. You're going to have to work on your brand. And we can tell you about that why. And you need to just go out there and pretend you work. So, for example, I was injured and couldn't walk for 7 years. So I built myself a routine. I woke up at the same 7 o'clock in the morning every single day. I did some training and education between 7 and 9. Then I did physical therapy for about 6 hours. And then I did some reading in my field. Why? Because I wanted to be ready to come back to work when I could ever walk again. And 7 years not being able to work, 7 hours a day of physical therapy. I still studied 4 hours a day because I knew I was going to be better. And guess what? I had multiple job opportunities for distinguished engineers, and I turned them all down, started this company, and now I get someone their first cloud architect job every single day of the week. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, build your brand, and you're going to have to build your brand for the following reason. And I hate saying this. ET, you may have been the best person in the world. You may have been. I believe you are. I'm not going to say otherwise. But ever since Jack Welch trained all of us executives, he trained us in a manner that said lay off the bottom 10% every year. That doesn't mean you were the bottom 10%. It just means that statistically speaking, people think you're the bottom 10% when you're laid off. So don't go out there and telling people your real name and that you were laid off. Don't go and put open to work on your LinkedIn profile. Go out there and show what you can do. Write some thought leadership documents which position you as a leader. And don't do anything silly like I see people saying how to install a web server on Linux. I mean, sudo apt install HTTPD or something like that, or sudo apt install Apache. Don't do that. Do something that shows you as a leader. I don't know which job you're looking for. So let's ET, you want to be a cloud architect. You could write something on why multi-cloud is the only high availability solution. You could write something on how would you secure a critical security environment. You could do something about how ChatGPT would change the future. You could talk about how artificial intelligence can augment businesses to improve their business performance. That's making the news. Don't report the news. So you can do that. Now, ET, make sure you get the correct training. Here's the thing. Every day you're not working is costing you money. Our average students earn about $800 to $1,600 a day, our average client that we work with. So spend the money on training and spend the money on interview training. And here's why. I'll do it again on Friday. I'll show examples of jobs. And we took a Google Principal Cloud Architect, which at the low end paid $495 and at the high end paid $677. We did the same thing for a Principal Architect at AWS, which had a range of, say, $295 to $500. And all these jobs have at least $100,000 difference. Some of them are $200,000 difference between the top paid and the bottom paid person in the same job. Get interview training. You're going to have to learn how to explain the layoff because everybody's going to want to know why. They're going to assume something's wrong with you until proven otherwise. There's not. You're probably awesome. But when you carry that little scarlet letter on you, that says, you got to go and you got to explain it. So get some interview training. If not, get yourself an executive coach. 2, have that routine every day. Focus on getting there. Now, when you learn your job, not anybody else's. And here's the key to success. If you live 3,000 years, you could not master every job on the cloud. And if you try, you're going to fail even with 3,000 years of life. Pick your job. Cloud architect designs, presents, and sells and become the best at it. They learn how to improve business performance. A DevOps engineer is a developer that also knows how to automate software release cycles, for example, and also knows how to automate. Guess what? Completely different job than the cloud architect. Totally fine job, but when you split your focus between DevOps and architecture, guess what? You're going to be horrible at both. If you look at Usain Bolt, I love watching this guy run because he's so fast. He's big, he's tall, he's muscular. Now look at a marathon runner. They're skinny, they have muscle wasting, and keep that in the back of your mind. And here's the reason why I tell you this. Each thing that you train for shapes you something, so be like that. Now tomorrow night, ET, join us, because we're going to have two interviews. We're going to have Reggie Bonifant, who's an NFL running back, a friend of mine, and an awesome dude in every way, shape, or the form. And he's going to talk about focus and what it takes to be awesome. And believe me, he's got lessons to learn. At 7 years old, he decided to be a pro football player, and he told his parents, and guess what? He did it. That's laser-like focus. And tomorrow night, Chris and Alonzo are going to interview me on both how I shifted from medicine to tech and how I became a principal architect in 2 years and how I rose to the top almost overnight when everybody else spent decades struggling. So you can do it. So stay motivated. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity. When I was told I'd never walk again, and it really crushed me, believe me, I had a couple months where I was not a happy camper. I said the new me is going to do more. So you know what I did when I couldn't walk? I got people hired every single day of the week in between physical therapy appointments. And I started this company about 2 years ago, and Chris was kind of here from almost the beginning. He even realized it was a company before I did. And we've been getting people hired every single day of the week, and that's now my dream. And I know it's Alonzo's dream, and I know it's Chris's dream. And we love it when it happens. So ET, your new opportunity to have the best job of your life and go enjoy it. Please come tomorrow night. And if you're looking for an architect job, join us on our webinar tonight too. But please come tomorrow night. Listen to Reggie. And if that won't motivate you, I don't know what can.
All right, let's see our next question. So Elizabeth James says, what are some things about a recruiter that tell you that she or he is a good recruiter? That's a good question.
A couple of things, Elizabeth. The first thing is they're going to want to talk to you. If they don't want to talk to you, they're not worth your time. Anybody that says, send me your resume and we'll see, is not worth your time, Elizabeth. Two, when you talk to them, they're going to know the employer. Truth be told, really good recruiters aren't even on LinkedIn most of the time making posts each day. They're inundated and they're speaking to CEOs and hiring managers every day of the week. So the recruiters you see on LinkedIn making posts all day, and there's a few of them, probably not the ones you want to go to. They're going to have people on their team that are trolling LinkedIn. They're going to be dealing with CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, and they're going to be negotiating deals so they can find out which jobs are open and exactly what the employer wants. Next, a good interviewer, a good company will prepare you for the interview. They're going to tell you that Alonzo is this cool dude, and Alonzo likes this and this and this. And if you want to be on Alonzo's good side, you need to be able to address these concerns. So you're going to know what to study and prepare before the interview. And they're going to talk to you and coach you and make sure you're good. And they won't send you on the wrong interview. Here's why. Somebody places me on a job, they earn about $100,000 commission for placing someone like me at my level. Now, here's the thing. If they send the wrong people for these interviews, they're never going to be able to come back and provide people in the future. So they got to know you well. So anybody that's spamming things, like I hear people saying, hey, there's lots of recruiters on my network, send a connection. That won't work. Make the right bait. You'll be bombarded with recruiters and interview everyone the way they would interview for a job. Elizabeth James, you're going to find a beautiful recruiter. I've got several that I've worked with, and I can just literally call them and say, I'm looking for something. They say, what do you want? I tell them what I want. And they'll literally make phone calls, dialing for dollars like any other sales executive would do. And then from there, you'll be there. How about you, Alonzo?
Well, I think that it's right on the money there. It's just like you have to, this is where it goes into your brand. Not only are you a capable applicant and you have a lot to offer, but it also is about you branding yourself. And the first thing you need to do is be conversant with with this recruiter to ask them questions about what are they offering? What are they, what kind of time are they willing to spend with you? Or what is it about you that brought them to your attention, you to their attention rather. So it's about you understanding. I think it all stems from being ready and presentable, not only do you have the internals of having the qualifications to have this job, but what are you presenting and magnifying and putting out there for them to attract you for this possible position? So understanding that recruiter is only part of the job, but also being able to present yourself and be ready for that next step, so that once they're ready to showcase you, you're going to be in a good space.
All right. Good job on that one. All right, let's see. Our next one, Jay says, what roles are mostly remote?
Architecture roles are typically remote because you're going to be meeting with your clients and they're not going to be in your office, so it doesn't matter which airport you go to or which you're at. They're typically always remote. Sales roles are typically remote as well for the same reason. You're going to be meeting with clients and there's no point you go wasting your time in an office. Some engineering roles are remote. And it depends on how good you are and how good the team is. If you got a bunch of babblers that waste their time and don't put a lot of output, the companies will mandate they come back to the office. If they're high performance and do their job, they'll let you work remote. And that's really the key. It's your output. I've been working remote since 2000. No, I'm sorry, 2001 is when I first started working remote. And I've been remote ever since. But when you work remote, you got to make sure your output is at least 20 to 25% higher than the people that are actually in the office. And that way there's no question that you're working and your results have to be better. So I've always worked remote. And here's the thing I viewed it. When I lived in New Jersey, I would commute 46 miles to New York each day, which was 2.5 hours in each direction. That was 5 hours. Guess what? I worked an extra 2 hours per day home. And by doing so, I saved 3 hours. And I kept getting promotions because I was the guy that had more output than anybody. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to go into New York City and pay New York City wage taxes, which were like 13%, which was crazy. So I got to stay home in New Jersey, which had lower taxes, still high, but lower. I didn't go to the office. I didn't have to pay commuting fees. And I worked 2 hours extra and still saved 3 because the average person was spending 5 hours a day commuting. So almost any job can be remote, but you got to be high output when you're remote. You got to be there, be seen. Don't go on a Zoom call and shut your camera off. Make people see you and know you and feel you like you're there in the room. Lonzo, how many years have you been remote?
Too many years to count. And one of the things that I think about, Jay, as I think about as a cloud architect, is also I'm asking the question. You're asking about the roles, which roles are mostly remote, but I'm wondering why. Is it because of your logistics? Is it because of you not wanting to be in the office? And if so, why? These are some of the counters that a lot of the hiring managers may ask you, because when you present yourself, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying what I'm implying is that related to work-life balance? Is it not? You have to be able to clarify your positioning if that was something that you would present to a potential hiring manager, because if you say stuff like that, it gives them pause, because they want to ensure that who they bring to the table is willing to roll up their sleeves, whether they're virtual, whether they're in brick and mortar, however it is. So ask yourself why you want the remote role. And if you did get it, how would you present yourself in saying that I am still a valued employee, to ensure their comfort level, their confidence, their ability to reach you at any given time, and being able to provide solutions to any problem. So make sure that whatever you do when it comes to seeking a role that may have a hybrid or may not, present yourself as saying X, Y, and Z. This is why I want a hybrid role, because I'm adding value to the company, and this is why. So make sure your answers are relatable. Make sure they're realistic, and make sure that you're able to provide that ROI with anything that they're asking you to do in that interview.
Alonzo gave you some great advice there. See, here's the thing. If you want to be remote because you don't like people, you're not getting hired. If you want to be remote like I did, because I wanted to live in Palm Beach, Florida versus New York, because I hate cold and I like warm weather and palm trees. Why do you want to be remote, Mike? My family's in Florida. I want to live in Florida. Okay, right. Mike. But then I put the effort in, probably more than anyone.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And they're going to be willing to acquiesce certain conditions because an interview is a negotiation. So put your best foot forward and say, well, this is the reason why I want to be remote. Like I said before, don't just say work-life balance, because that's code for saying I don't want to work and I'm only going to work when I feel like it.
Yep.
So just make sure your motivation is where it needs to do and present it in such a fashion where it's negotiable and there's an option for them to work with you on certain asks when you're at the interview.
Native Yoga Center. Hi, Go Cloud team. You guys are the best. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Native Yoga. Rosalind and his wife Tamara run a yoga studio that's so good. When I couldn't walk, they helped me learn to walk again. Todd is not only a good friend, the CEO of that organization, he actually made some of the mental focus and training sessions that were part of our program, teaching people how to control their emotions. Todd and Tamara, so great to see you here. So thankful for you both, and can't wait to see you real soon. So while we wait for Chris to come back, we all have to find ways to do focus. One of the things for me is I have an issue which keeps me unable to walk, so I practice yoga for 90 minutes in a 130-degree room. And then I spend another 90 minutes in a 160-degree room. But, we all have something, but whether you meditate, whether you yell in a room and scream with the door shut, or whether you go for 20-mile runs, it doesn't matter. We all need something. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I love yoga.
So how bad has my audio been?
It's been fine.
It's been good.
Wow. I should put the microphone back on the floor, I guess. Apparently my microphone fell off and it's been on the floor. I don't know how long it's been on the floor.
It's been fine. Remember I had an old microphone at one point? It wasn't a super expensive microphone and you could hear me no matter where I was at. And then I bought this really expensive microphone, and if it's not on me, you can't hear anything.
Yes. I find it funny that oh wow, this chair keeps shrinking on me. All right. So this is what happens when you work somewhere that you're not used to working. All right. So let me get back to these questions here. Okay. What roles are mostly remote? That was the last one we had done. Okay. So AQC says, how can a cloud architect, or how does a cloud architect maintain relationship with clients?
That's a fun part.
Well, I'll give you some examples. For examples, the whole job is about relationships. 1 year as an architect, I spent $100,000 on lunches and $100,000 on dinners building relationships. Now, the good news goes in the corporate American Express. You don't pay for it yourself. In fact, I had one company that would call the people in the office and say, you only spent $10,000 this month. You're not entertaining your clients enough. But no, in all seriousness, you're going to go meet them on site. You're going to take them to lunches. In my early architect days, I actually took golf lessons because I had to play golf with my clients. It's one of those things that I had to do. You don't need it to start, but in your career, as your career progresses, you're going to do that. You'll be taking them to the Super Bowl with box seats that your company will be paying for. You'll be taking them to really nice restaurants. You're going to be drinking Macallan 25 or your favorite 25-year-old scotch with them, and or whatever your favorite brandy is. That's going to be part of something you're just going to be doing. You're going to go on site. You're going to get to know people. You're going to be honest with your people, truthful with your people. When you can't deliver, you're going to make sure you can as much as possible, but you're going to tell them why you can't, what happened, and what you're going to do to make it right. When the tech fails, and I promise you, it's going to fail. Now, as an architect, you're not going to be fixing it. There's going to be a tech support staff that's going to fix it. But if it gets bad enough, call somebody on the phone. I hear you're struggling with something. Is there anything that I can do for you? And if they tell you something, be real quiet, goes back, raise heck among the team, and get the right resources there. Schmooze a little. If they're having a real bad outage, fly in and take the people out and let them and sit on site. Let them know that you truly, truly care. I've had to do that too with $1 billion plus clients, and I'm happy to do it at the same time. So it's all about your communication skills, your leadership skills, your sales skills. You're constantly selling. When something's broken, you're selling. When you've got something new, you're selling. Also, how do you negotiate a deal?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why do you think we provide so much negotiation training? If you negotiate wrong, you destroy a relationship. If you negotiate right, you build a relationship. How about the way you communicate in writing in between? How fast do you return somebody's phone calls, for example? Do you take a week to get back to somebody? Relationships destroyed. You get back to them as fast as possible, relationships built. How honest are you?
Mm-hmm.
When you talk, does your voice, your body language all match? If so, it's truthful. See, once you get into the big leagues, you can't lie to somebody. They can sense it in a second.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what happens, for example, is I interview thousands of people constantly, and everybody lies to me. I feed them cookies. I have a cookie jar, and I don't even eat butter, sugar, or flowers, because the second somebody lies to me, I know I can't do business with them. And it's kind of rude to say, get out of here right now, and have them escorted out by security in the first 30 seconds of an interview. So I fed them cookies for 15 minutes. So treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat everybody as if they're your family, because guess what? They kind of are.
Yeah.
Clients are everything. Your network is your net worth, but it's a small industry. I know a lot of people that have lied their way into places. They're doing great, crash and burn, and then no one will touch them. So that's how I maintain it. Any guidance from either one of you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. How do you AQC? It's universal. What is the common denominator with any relationship? It's trust. You build it. Takes a long time to cultivate it, and it could be a one project, one phone call to destroy it. So you think about, how are you getting in that position? How are you? You start off, you meet them, you introduce them, time over time. You give them incremental advice that they are going to get ROI on, which builds further trust because they feel that you're competent, capable. You're not going to lie to them, even though it may not be to your benefit. That trust is going to go a long way. Now, when you destroy that trust, or you have a reputation for being other than trustworthy, not only would you lose your job, you lose your reputation, you lose your job. You go, like Mike said, this is a small community, and people will know your name because you're going to be associated with multi-million-dollar projects. And if you were the one that cost this company money and you're looking for another job, people talk. I mean, and that's in any industry. So understanding that your relationship is built upon trust, that trust is associated with your brand, and it comes right back to that brand of understanding that you are someone that is competent, capable, trustworthy, consistent. When you're explaining cloud architecture, you're explaining these benefits. You're not talking all over the place. You know, your eyes are not meeting where they're supposed to meet. You're not speaking with intent. You're not speaking with confidence. Case in point, a surgeon, if you're going to ask if my loved one will live or die, or if they're going to have issues for the rest of their lives, and you're looking for them to be confident, and you're looking all over the place, and they're speaking meekly, they're speaking incomplete, they're speaking with a lack of assertiveness, you're not going to be very confident in entrusting your loved one's health. Same thing with this, whether we're talking about health of a person or health checks of an architecture, ensuring that you create these strong relationships by being competent, capable. That's how you're going to continue to not only build relationships, but maintain them, and maybe even bring new people along for the ride, because you're the one that they trust. And if they trust you, these people will tend to go by what they say based upon their own relationship. So it's a cultivation.
And I think I want to add one thing, and I want to go to Chris, but I want to compliment Chris on this thing. Chris and I have extraordinary trust of each other. Same for Alonzo. One of the ways Chris has built such trust is he won't tell me what I want to hear. He'll tell me what I need to hear, but he'll do it in a nice, respectful sort of manner. So it's also telling people what they need to hear, regardless if it makes them happy or not, because it's all about building the right thing. Shout out to Chris over there. Chris, you have any thoughts here?
I'm just glad to know that you think I do it respectfully. That's I don't have much to add to what you guys have already said. You guys covered it pretty good. So I think that you summed it up just right. So I'll get to the next question. The next question is from James T. And we actually have a guest lecturer that will be teaching a class about this topic next month for our students. But James T says, "Hi, Mike. My job uses event-driven architecture." That's the topic I'm talking about that we'll have a guest lecturer for. Stream processing and Kafka. Could you talk about what those are, particularly Kafka, and is it a skill architects need to learn?
Well, James T., we need to know Kafka for the following reason. We can't use AWS Kinesis in a multi-cloud architecture, so that's another one of those proprietary services to toss in the trash. But what we can't, and SQS is the same thing on AWS. Why? It's proprietary, and 98% of customers are multi-cloud. So we need to use things that work in multi-cloud. Kafka can make a great queue. It can also make a great messaging platform, and it's perfect for streaming data. So yes, you need to know what Kafka is as an architect. You need to know how to use it as an architect and how it helps the business. Now remember, James T., architects don't touch the technology, ever. Our focus is on business. Engineers' focus is on the tech. So what is Kafka? How does it work? And why should we use it? And then understand how would you use it in a streaming data? What are the pieces and parts that are necessary to make it work? How would you use it as a queue, for example, going in between, let's say, a 3-tier website between an application server and a database? Those kinds of things. So it's about how it works, and why do we use it, not how to do it. We're not software developers, if that makes any sense to you. So I hope I answered that. If not, you can ask a little more about that.
All right. Ajay says, "Can you please guide me on how I can get to a cloud engineer from an L2 Linux support?"
Sure. So again, it doesn't matter what your background is. If you had no job, if you worked as a waiter, like Ivan Tamba, for example, was a waiter in his first job as a cloud architect, AWS solutions architect for AWS. What matters is that you get the right training. Now, the good news is if you have Linux knowledge, you're part of the way there. So a cloud engineer really needs to know the following: network and data center technologies, meaning routing, switching, and that you need to understand. Now, on the data center side, you need to know servers and server virtualization and container orchestration, storage area networks like block storage, object storage, file storage, and you're going to know some of that. You're going to need to know databases, for example, NoSQL databases, relational databases. You're going to need to know some security things as a cloud engineer, basic firewall kind of things, access control lists, those sort of things. And you're going to need to know those kind of things. So as a cloud engineer, you're going to first need to know the network and the data center. Now, next, as a cloud engineer, you're going to need to know Linux. Think of it as a Linux engineer versus a Linux support person. Why? Because everything you're going to work with is going to be Linux. Most of the systems you're going to be will be Linux. Now, AJ, you may have already have familiarity with Linux cloud, such as OpenStack. If not, get familiar with it because it's a cloud. From there, you're going to need to get used to scripting. Bash shell scripting, you may already know, Python scripting, as well as Windows PowerShell scripting. Now, as the cloud engineer, you're going to need to configure things. So first, learn the CLI, the command line interface of the various clouds, and then learn infrastructure as code in the form of Terraform. Now, from there, that's your basic cloud engineer skills. Now, when you're going from support, the support has a tough brand that's passed to get past. So work on your communication skills and your leadership skills to some degree. But really get hands-on, some more. See, cloud architects design, present, and sell, and hands-on is not what we do. But for engineers, it's really hands-on. Also, while you're at it, get some good, strong Kubernetes knowledge, because you're going to be dealing with that constantly. And when you do these things, it's not the Azure Kubernetes service. It's not the AWS Elastic Kubernetes service. It's real Kubernetes because it's multi-cloud. How would you build and set up and optimize and maintain a Kubernetes cluster? Kind of like OpenStack, almost, if you will. But how would you do it the hard way? When you know how to do this stuff the hard way, when you go in the cloud, it's all silly easy. And AJ, those are your basic skills for the cloud, and that's the things that I would learn.
They've got a follow-up question here. It says, if they get an opportunity for Java development and one in DevOps, what would they choose?
Well, AJ, I wouldn't do any development career. I recommend staying far, far, far away from anything related to development. First, what you want to be is in economics, we talk about the supply and demand curve, meaning you want a job that's deeply in demand for which there's low supply, because you got something for which there's a high supply and low demand, you get paid nothing. You get something for which there's a low supply and a high demand, you get paid a lot. Every school in the world teaches programming, and you can learn to put code free on the internet. Guess what? Coding is the worst career out there, and ChatGPT can code, so I expect to see massive layoffs in the development sector. We'll still have the superstar programmers, and the programmers that will exist will be those with deep communication skills. Now, DevOps, unless you're a good software engineer, DevOps is not an opportunity for you. But if you happen to be a great software engineer, DevOps is also a fine place. The key, AJ, with engineering careers, you have to understand, we're going to see massive layoffs here. And the reason we're going to see massive layoffs is, while a cloud architect cannot be replaced by technology, because of the communication skills, the leadership skills, the sales skills, the executive presence, the team building. Please look at the video where we showed about ChatGPT and the end of the certifications making them worthless. ChatGPT, we demonstrated a Terraform script. We demonstrated writing a bash shell script, a Python script. And most of what can be done by a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer can be automated by ChatGPT. So if you're going to do an engineering career, cloud engineer is a fine career, but make sure you focus equally as much on your communication skills, your presentation skills, your sales skills, your leadership skills, and your team building skills. And here's the reason why. When it comes to getting laid off, who gets laid off? The people that don't relate well to others, the people that are miserable to be around. And who never gets laid off? The jovial, happy people that bring out the best in others and raise the energy in the room. And here's what happens when a layoff occurs. They get said, hey, would you like to go to training to be an architect? Would you like to become a manager? Would you like to do this? And they get typically moved. So I would probably say the cloud engineer is the best of the options over there. But if you're going to do anything engineering, make sure you cross-train in business, leadership, sales, and communication skills, because that's how you're going to stay current in the world with artificial intelligence. And that way, we're going to have one superstar engineer with these skills, and they'll replace 6 or 7 regular engineers. So don't be on the tech side only. Be on the tech side with the people side, and then you're not getting replaced by technology.
All right. So, see, Anakin Cloudwalker says, how bad or good of an idea is it to add recruiters on LinkedIn? Will they get angry if I'm adding a bunch of them?
They're not even going to know. So they're not going to have time to go through your list of people to see who's added. I have hundreds of recruiters on my thing, and it's totally fine. Add recruiters. The more recruiters you have, the more posts of jobs you're going to see. Add thousands of them. I would. Now, don't work with thousands of them. You're only going to work with 1, 2, or 3 good ones. And here's the reason why. Early in my career, real early, I connected with like 10 recruiters. This was a mistake that I did make. One recruiter pitched me for a job, another recruiter pitched me for the same job, and another recruiter pitched me for the same job. The good recruiter that I actually wanted said, Mike, what's going on here? I pitched you for a job, and they've already heard about you twice. How many recruiters are you working with? And I said, several. And they said, if you want to work with me, you're going to work with me. I'm not going to work hard and have the commission go to somebody else. And I said, okay. I worked with them, and they got me a beautiful, beautiful job a couple of weeks later, and I loved it, and I was grateful. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind.
All right. And Jay says, can you please explain what are the roles and responsibilities of a cloud engineer? So I'm gonna go find a link for a video. I'm sure we've got plenty of videos that cover that.
Sure, but And while we put the video, just think about this. If there's a job where you're going to sit behind a desk and configure stuff all day, this is it. So think that you wake up and you start building your Linux systems and installing applications and maintaining them. You're configuring virtual machines, you're configuring containers, you're configuring Kubernetes clusters. You're writing Terraform scripts, you're writing Python scripts and Windows PowerShell, and you're going to do it all day, every day, every day, and every day. No, we architects will come to you guys for tech guidance, because remember, we focus on the business, you guys focus on the tech. But this is a job where you're literally going to be behind a desk all day, coding and configuring. Some people like that. I was an engineer for 6 months. It was the worst 6 months of my life. I got stuck behind a desk. Somebody offered me an architect job, and it paid me 150% more than my engineering job. And I got to talk to people and buy lunches and dinners and drinks on their credit card. I was like, wow, I went from working to drinking, $100 shots of scotch. Life was good. But, not everybody likes that. So the key is just understand, you will literally be writing Terraform scripts. You'll be installing applications on Linux. Generally, Ubuntu Linux, but also, Amazon Linux, for example, which is basically Red Hat, whatever you feel like using at the time. And you're going to be configuring databases and setting them up. You're going to be setting up all kinds of scripts to automate deployment of things. You're going to be setting up millions of virtual machines and load balancers and things like that. Basically hands-on. So if you think of the job of a Linux engineer, it's the same job, but now it's just more stuff.
And I put 2 links in there, one for the types of cloud engineers and one for the what is a cloud engineer. I put that in the chat box. Dell says, can a quiet introvert be a good, effective cloud architect?
I'm an introvert. You wouldn't see it now because I got lots of training. In fact, there's a video where we have a vice president over NVIDIA. He's a good friend of mine. He was my manager. We both help each other throughout our careers. And he said, and all my students were there, he says, Mike's an introvert. My students were like, huh? What? Mike's an introvert? Yeah. I was the first guy go to when work would mandate that you'd have to go to this offsite dinner. I'd grab my glass of Silver Oak wine and I would hide in the corner and not talk to anybody except my manager, because he and I were friends. And I got lots and lots of training and became a great architect and no longer was an introvert. So the answer is yes. I will tell you, I know lots of senior management consultants that are introverts, lots of sales executives that are introverts. They got training. So the answer is yes, you can. But you're going to have to get training and you're going to have to get outside of your comfort zone. Everything is hard when you started. I didn't know how to practice medicine when I was born. 7 years of school later, I learned internal medicine. That's how it happened. I wasn't born a network architect. I worked hard to become one. I wasn't born an enterprise architect, a cloud architect, or a business architect either, because what? I learned hard and I studied, and I've succeeded at all of them. So the key is, yes, of course you can. Just do it. Chris is an introvert, at least I would assume he is, and he's out here all the time. And boy, does he make a difference in our students' lives.
I think I'm an introvert, but apparently I'm not. So yeah, that's what I've learned. That's what people tell me.
Yeah, people tell me I'm not an introvert too, but they don't know me very well.
Yeah. So there's a big difference. There's sometimes you may think you're an introvert, but you're not. That's what I'm trying to say. 1 Minute Tech Time says, hello, if I decide to purchase your bundle architect program without taking your live sessions, is it going to be enough in order to become a solution architect? Also, I don't know which field to choose to specialize.
We don't have any programs without live sessions. We have had people that were successful not coming to class. Plenty of them. But, my perspective is this. Why wouldn't you? Or at least come to as many as you can. Because, building an excellent career is about putting the time, the effort, and the focus into it. So the answer is, yeah, you probably could, but there's a reason we have live sessions. Because designing something with a group of people is different than watching a video of other people designing it. When you come to a live session, we may practice interview you in a live session. And if you're not in that live session, we're not practice interviewing you. When you come to the live session, you present an architecture in class like we'll have to in a job interview. All cloud architects get a job interview. And if you're not there practicing your interview and presenting their interview, how do you know if you're doing it right? So the answer is you might, but part of the magic of why we make things work so well is we actually teach we teach the real job, and we make our students actually do the real job in every class. And yes, we've had plenty of people like Ivan Chamba, who's working at AWS, who couldn't come to class. And he listened to our lectures driving back and forth between the university and his home. And the university and his job where he was serving food. He's a perfect example. And he's not the only example. I could give you countless examples of people that have done it. But I really think that it's best to participate and put your heart into anything that you possibly do so you can get there. Our program works, and almost everybody that does all the requirements gets hired. But people that don't do requirements don't get hired. So I'd recommend you take the classes. But you guys have seen people get through and not get through, so I'd love to hear your perspective.
I definitely, we've seen it before, but I don't, say for instance, if I'd rather have all the resources available to me to ensure, it's what we call a gap analysis, is ensuring that I have everything readily available. When I'm looking for a job, I want to make sure I have all the skill sets covered. So I understand it might be a time constraint, it might be a financial constraint, but I definitely want to emphasize that any videos that we have, the live sessions that we have, are going to be totally to your benefit. You're going to be, you're going to have access to a lot of real world resources that are really going to help you in that position. So we understand if you don't want the live sessions, we get it. But however, the live sessions are going to do nothing but help and emphasize your positioning to go to become a cloud architect or a solution architect.
Yeah, so we'll close this one out by emphasizing that there is not the option to buy it without the live classes. So you're enrolling and it's your choice whether to utilize what you've enrolled and purchased or not. So we strongly encourage you to take part in the live classes. Again, we understand if you're not able to take part in all of them, but if you're able to, then by all means, pop into a class. We put the schedule out so that you know if there's a topic coming up that you want to make sure that you attend. If you've got the opportunity to move some things around, then you know ahead of time. So just take advantage of it. If you do enroll in our program, it's part of your program. So I wouldn't purposely go out of my way not to attend classes.
Mm-hmm.
Rick asked, what would be the best path of pivoting from a virtualization of workspace carrier to a cloud or solution architect?
Rick, you have to understand, I don't know what you did in your past role. So if you were a virtualization architect, for example, and you were meeting with clients and asking their business requirements, and you were designing the virtualization for their data center, and you were determining which business applications would run on these virtualized servers, you were presenting back and selling it back, you're already there. Now, if you're coming from an engineering perspective, you're going to need complete and total retraining, and here's the reason. Engineers focus on the tech, architects focus on the business. So having the knowledge of server virtualization and containers are great, but knowing how to sell, knowing how to respond to an RFI, RFP, RFQ, knowing how to communicate to the CEO, CIO, CTO, CFO is an architect thing. Knowing how to write a document for executives, knowing how to write a white paper, because architects do it, knowing how to present at a conference, architects are going to be doing, knowing how to do an executive briefing at the executive briefing center or something, knowing how to entertain clients is going to be there, knowing how to manage projects, for example. These are architect skills, and you're going to need training. And you can do what I did, which was get an MBA and then had an additional $100,000 of training additionally on just those things, or you could take our course. But you're also going to need to know networking as well. And that means BGP, not how to configure it, how to design it. It also means IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting, for example. How would you actually design an IP addressing scheme for an organization with 20,000 remote locations and 200,000 employees. For example, keep that in the back of your mind. And we've got a webinar tonight, which is going to tell you exactly how to do that if you can join us. And my team will pop the link to that webinar in there, and it's you can see on the top of the screen. What kind of firewalls we use, because it's not going to be the stuff covered in certification. What kind of IDS, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention strategies, because you need to know how these systems work. What kind of storage area networks, which you may already know right now. What kind of enterprise applications are going to be used to improve business performance? When would you use, for example, when would you use unified communications? When would you use a CRM solution? Do they work? Do they not work? You need to be able to understand that because there's a lot of conflicting data. How would you advise your customers on how to use that? How would you advise your customers on a supply chain, for example, and how to optimize that? How would you advise your customers to develop a true high availability system and kind of keep that in the back of your mind? So kind of think about those kind of things. How do you present to a technical audience versus a COXO audience? How do you lead? How do you sell? Those are the things that you need to learn. Why don't you join us completely, and tonight's completely free, how to get your first cloud architect job webinar, and we're going to spend 30 minutes answering that question, just that question. And then after that, you guys can come live. It's going to be on our webinar platform. You can come on screen and we can actually have a face-to-face discussion with you, me, and Chris. To kind of keep that about. And we've got lots of webinars. I'm going to let Alonzo talk about some of the webinars we have coming up, or Chris.
Yeah, so just want to remind everybody, we don't have any more questions currently, but if you have any questions, put them in the chat box so that we can get to them. We're here for just a little bit longer, so make sure to put those in the chat box. But I do want to follow up with talking. Mike did a good job of saying what we're going to be talking about on our webinar tonight. So, we know we put the link in the chat box in the description as well. Make sure to join us tonight for that webinar so that you know exactly what it takes to become a cloud architect, to get your first cloud architect job, and how to become the ultimate cloud architect. So we'll talk about everything from how we created our program and our methods to what hiring managers want, in cloud architects, as well as what they just want in general from any employee. Because trust me, most hiring managers, 90% of what they want is the same thing, no matter what the job is. So if you've got those 90% things, you're in a good position, no matter what the job is. So we'll talk about those, talk about HR and the job descriptions. We'll talk about the experience and what type of experience matters, if any. And then we'll elaborate further on what Mike was just going through about the actual skills that are necessary and the knowledge base that's necessary. So that's tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Also, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can register for either one of them or for both if you'd like. Also, on Friday at 3:15 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing another Secrets to Winning the Interview webinar, where we will talk about everything that you need to know to win the interview, starting from the resume to closing the negotiations after the interview. We had one last week. It was great. Lots of activity, lots of questions, a lot of fun. So looking forward to that this Friday as well. Hopefully you join us. You can register at the link in the description for that as well. So those are the webinars that we've got coming up this week. So take advantage of those. So I see a question from Kevin here. Does this course teach me about cloud security architecture?
Yes. Kevin, we've had lots of people like Delroy Batt, who never worked in tech before, get his first cloud security architect job. Robert Welch, you can see a video of him, who we trained to be a cloud security architect. We help people become cloud architects, cloud network architects, and cloud security architects, because we help everybody build an individualized plan. We get pretty deep into security for every architecture, because I've got a pretty strong security background, and nothing works without security. say yes. We've got lots of people becoming cloud security architects after this program.
All right. And James T asked, this is currently the last question. So again, anyone, if you've got any last questions, get them in here now while we're here to answer them. If you don't have any more, then we'll see you tonight, of course. But James T asked, following up on my question earlier, my job is offering a Kafka course. Should I enroll? They offer training to reskill into an enterprise architect within the company. I'm trying to align myself to be a great fit.
James T, training in business acumen, leadership, sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence. That's training to become a cloud architect. If you go to Kafka, you're going to look more like an engineer, less like an architect, and you'll become less employable. So focus on the architect things: design, present, and sell. You can learn everything you need to know about a Kafka in a 30-page document and be done with it once in 2 hours. What you need to know is how to capture an audience, lead an audience, negotiate $1 billion deal, read a financial statements and interpret it and make recommendations to your client. Being able to look at your organization's people, processes, and technologies and see what needs to be done. Figuring out all of the technologies, cloud and non-cloud, that's going to make that business be better. Figuring out how to get the disparate parts of the company talking to each other so they can be more operationally efficient is what we enterprise architects do. But taking a Kafka course is going in the exact opposite direction that you need to go. Getting an MBA would be helpful, but learning Kafka would be like learning to code. One more thing to take off of your resume.
All right.
Good question.
Just Create asks, is there a difference between cloud architect and a specialized architect? If so, what are the differences or pros and cons of cloud architect and a special architect, i.e. a network architect?
Yes, there are differences, and let's do this. I'm going to get some documents to show you the various forms. Bear with me about 30 seconds. Be right there, just great. It's going to be worth it.
All right. So want to remind everybody while we're waiting on Mike that we also are in the midst of our discount countdown for our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It's available right now for 50% off. It was previously available for 60% off, but that is gone. That's disappeared. It's currently available for 50% off, but it will not be available forever at that rate. And it's available while enrollments, I muted you, Mike. It will be available while enrollments are available. Once those enrollment slots are gone, or once the time frame of the discount expires, that discount will no longer be available. This is on our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program. You can get the link in the description. And this gets you access to it, just so much stuff, but just a couple of things that I'm going to mention. Over 500 hours worth of content, 3 live classes a week for an entire year, tech training, soft skills training, career development training, interview training, resume training, AWS training, Azure training, open cloud training, or OpenStack, sorry. OpenStack training, all kinds of stuff. Mental focus and emotional intelligence, just anything and everything that's necessary to be a cloud architect is included in that program. So take advantage of that while it is available. All right, now Mike is back.
So Just Create, there's 3 ways you can build your career. You can become a generic architect, which is fine. You can become a specialized architect, or if you want to make money and actually excel in your career, you can learn business and use that as part of your architecture career. And I'll give you the differences. A generic person knows a little bit about a lot of things, and they're fine. Now, a lot of things does not mean DevOps or SysOps. It means architecture, how to design, present, and sell. Ultimately, a generic architect is a really great job. Lots of job opportunities, good pay, and you can work pretty much anywhere. Now, someone like me that's been in networking for 25 years, that likes to could take a cloud network architect role, and yes, overall that will pay more than a basic cloud architect, but it's still killing your career, and I'll explain to you why it's actually killing your career. So for me, I like focusing on the network. Why? I'm one of the original Cisco certified internet experts back when it was a hard 2-day exam before Cisco made it easy because the people kept failing it and it was not customer friendly. I love the network. I love getting deep in BGP and the interior gateway protocol, so I enjoy it. But here's a reason I got out of being a cloud network architect. Pay. So the pros of being a network architect is you only focus on the network. And generally speaking, it's easier to become an expert at one thing than it is over something else. But I want you to understand this. Basic cloud architect earns $199,000 a year. Cloud network architect, maybe it cranks that to $250, $275. Same thing for a cloud security architect. Now, just great. What if you focused on business? What if you increased your business acumen? Instead, like me, that's where my focus is. What if I told you that according to salary.com, and I'll show you numerous examples, the average person that's trained and highly skilled in business acumen earns on average $549,000 per year. You can see this on salary.com, and I'll give you a couple examples. Now, you're better positioned to help a business make more money. You can understand their revenue and their paths or routes to revenue. You can understand their operational efficiencies and inefficiencies. You understand the people, processes, and technologies, and now you're in a totally new world. So a principal architect at Google is a job that requires lots of business acumen. It pays $500,000 a year, 508, and it's got an average range of 394 to 677. The better your business acumen, the better your interview, the higher your salary. Now let's look, for example, at one at Microsoft. Principal architect earns on average of $379. This is a job with business acumen, not so much tech acumen. And again, this range is $300 to $495. What do you think makes that difference? Your business acumen and your interview skills. Here's another example of a job, and there's another reason I want you to focus on the business and not so much on the tech. AWS, principal architect, 372, and you can see their range is 291 to 491. But let's look at other jobs which come out of architect roles if you're good and you focus on the business. Here we've got a senior director, which is basically an enterprise architect level role, but it's a senior director managing people at Cisco, pays $527 on average, and that range is $471 to $689. Again, how much business acumen you have, how good your soft skills are, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Senior director at IBM, $399. Again, this is your business acumen, $314 to $521 is the pay range. Accenture pays a little less, $384 for someone of the director level that we're talking about, with a range of $294 and to $514. Palo Alto, the great security company, senior director, $540 is their median pay, with a pay range of $425 and $709K. So we train our architects in so much business, and here's the reason why. We want our architects to have a path to be the CEO, the CIO, the CTO in the future, the senior director, the VP of enterprise architecture. That's what we train for. So I recommend you focus on the generic architect and build deep business, communication, leadership skills, executive presence, like Alonzo has, like I have, like Chris has. And then you can get any job you want. So a little more money spent in training on the business skills because they're more expensive. We train them extensively in our programs, and that's why. Now you know why we do what we do. So if you focus on the tech, your salary will be the lowest. If you focus on the business, your salary will be the highest, and your career mobility will be the best. You got to remember this, Just Create. No business buys tech because they like it. They hate it. They don't want any tech in there. They'd go back to paper documents and beautiful cross pens, you know, those silver and gold pens that people have and the platinum pens. The reason they use tech is for competitive advantage. So help your customers better understand which tech will make their business more profitable, and you can ask for any salary you want, and you'll have the most upward career mobility in the world. Please come to our interview webinar as well on Friday, as well as the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. We'll teach you a lot more about it.
All right. All right. So this is our last question, everybody. Akpos says, how long does it take from zero knowledge to hero? Currently not working, and I'm currently learning Qualys.
Well, let's dissect that. From 0 to hero will take you 75 years. Now, from 0 to hired is a totally different story. So I can tell you with our training, it takes about 6 to 12 months. The fastest person with 0 tech background that got through my program, his name was Richard Afukar, and he was hired by AWS in 3 weeks. Delroy Back got his first job in about a month, and it was a good job, but that's not normal. What I will tell you is it takes our average person with or without a background 6 to 12 months to get a job, and these jobs on average pay between 120 and 287K. So with our training, and the reason our training can get people these jobs so much faster is the following reasons. I've been a tech career coach for 2 decades, and I have 25 years experience. So it's not like I'm some junior level associate architect that doesn't know what I don't know. I've spoken to thousands of hiring managers and thousands of recruiters, and I've coached people for decades. I've had phone calls with people and told them what to say to their manager, and they got a $50,000 stock grant and a $50,000 raise just with that. So with the people I know and what we've done, we've taken basically 20 years worth of knowledge and condensed it into 500 hours of training. So it takes 6 to 12 months with our program. And you can see lots of stories, for example, who didn't work before in tech? We had Jennifer, who's now working at JP Morgan Chase. She was a mental health tech. We had Jermaine, who's now an enterprise architect. He was selling landscaping gear. We had Wallace, who we love. I don't know what he was doing, but it wasn't in tech, and he's now an enterprise architect. We had Yvonne Tambo, this amazing young kid from Cameroon, who was hired by AWS. His last job was a waiter. He was in our program for 6 months. We had Coyote, who's also working at AWS. Great guy. I think he's Cameroonian as well. And he got hired by AWS in about 6 months. We had Valwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom. It took her about 8 months to get her first cloud architect job at Microsoft. We had Vladimir, who was a college student who got hired in about 6 months inside of our program. We had Roy last week, who got a senior cloud architect job at one of the big 4 consulting companies. You'll see him soon on our channel. And he became a senior architect in about a year, maybe a year and a month inside of our program, but that was his first tech job ever. And we had Jeffrey West, who was doing some kind of interesting geospatial imaging, but had no tech background, but it was all geology work. Took him about 6 months in our program to get hired. And that's just some examples. But, with our training, it takes about 6 to 12 months to get a job. But you have to understand, when I consider hero, I consider an expert. And I've spent 25 years on network architectures, and I still have a lot to learn. I don't consider myself to be a hero. I still learn every day. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's a constant improvement process. I try to get better every single day.
All right. So next question. Hey, Mike, can you please speak a little about invitation to a lunch interview after the technical and behavioral interview?
That's a good sign. So typically what people want to do is they want to see how you react in an interview. Do not order a sandwich. I'm going to tell you that right now. Nothing you can use with your fingers. Don't instantly put salt on your food, and here's the reason why. We use that as a test. If you instantly put salt and pepper on your food without tasting it first, we know you're going to come up with a solution before you even assess the situation. So we look for these things. Keep your car clean. Many hiring managers like to walk people to their car because if the car looks like mess, they will figure that they'll be a mess. Be polite. Don't talk with your mouth full. Look people in the eye. Don't drink, as a rule, alcohol on an interview. Show you're clean and responsible. Relax, make a pint, communicate, read the room. When you talk and people close their arms, stop talking fast, change the topic or something like that. But it's a very good sign. You're invited to utter something responsible, order something that looks on the healthier side, so that you're responsible. Look people in the eye. I'd wear a suit, by the way. Your shoes should be polished. It shows that you have attention to detail. Your belt should be polished. If not, if your belt looks raggedy, get a new one. Your suit should not have any wrinkles in it. It should be freshly pressed. Same thing with your shirt. And be respectful. It's a great chance because typically speaking, first, 1 or 2 meetings, then maybe a lunch interview, then a presentation interview, and then you're hired. So, Kimmy, you're doing great, and I'm super excited for you. So, there are some skills. Let's bring in Alonzo and our Chris to see if they want to give you some guidance as well.
I definitely want, first of all, awesome work. And the thing that I'd like to impart is if there's going to be an invitation to a lunch interview, it would be very good to try to brush up on a little bit of etiquette when it comes to how you present, making sure. And I know it may seem like overkill, but it would be very good to just know the difference between the dinner fork, the salad fork, ensuring where you position yourself in the room at the table. Don't be the one to sit down first. Just kind of take the cues of the person who invited you to the lunch. Also, don't ever finish your plate. Never finish your plate, okay? Never finish your plate. Never finish what you had to drink. Take the lead on what they're ordering. If it's something that it goes against your beliefs or goes against your dietary or allergic issues, just try to do something similar to what they're doing. Try to shadow as you would, because they're not necessarily inviting you out to lunch. They're gauging how you work and how you respond in a given environment, just like Mike says. So just wanting to make sure that that's just a few tidbits that I wanted to share with you.
I'm going to interject here before they give all of our training away. So I will add, a lot of people have this connotation that the lunch interview is like a throwaway, like it's your let down, like they're not wanting to do it, but they're doing it. That is the exact opposite. Lunch interviews are their escape from work. It just telling you how the hiring manager is viewing it. Lunch interviews are dinner interviews are work for a hiring manager. Lunch interviews are our escape. Like that is our break. That is the hiring manager getting away. So if you're invited to a lunch interview, that's again, I don't know where this idea, and I've heard it from a lot of people that, getting invited to, I think it comes from the concept of, on a personal side, getting invited to going on a lunch date versus a dinner date doesn't seem as serious. I think that's where it comes from. But I've heard people ask me and tell me that they got invited to a lunch interview and they thought that was a step back, or just kind of a pacification thing. And it's like, no, that being invited to a lunch interview is them inviting you to time that they would normally utilize to decompress and get away, and they're essentially, like, subconsciously or unconsciously saying, you're worth me using my decompression time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But
dinner
interviews are work.
Yeah,
that is work for us. So those are more formal. Those are less of a clear indication that you're on the in. Lunch interview is a clear indication in most situations that you're pretty good. You're in a very good situation. Only thing here is down. Like there's like, yep. So don't do anything to mess it up. That's why we're focusing on the little. That's why all these tips seem like overkill. It's because at this point, the only thing that you can do is mess it up. In most situations, if you've gotten to this point, the only thing that you can do is mess up.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I've never been on a breakfast or lunch interview where I didn't get the offer. Then again, I get hired on every interview, but almost most of the jobs want you to meet them either at a nice buffet for breakfast or a good lunch interview if it's a good high-paying job. And they want to get a feel for you outside of the office to see if they like you. Can they relate to you? And you're worth their time, as Chris said, to go meet with them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Outside the office.
Yeah, I was going to say, and again, they're not going to do that at dinner, because dinner, in our mind, dinner is work. So, so that's not. It's dinner. If we're doing dinner for work, like it doesn't seem like we're getting to see behind the curtain of you. But if we invite you to lunch or if we invite you to breakfast, again, subconsciously and unconsciously, we're pulling back the curtain, and seeing underneath everything. At least that's the perception that we have as hiring managers. Alexis asked, what program should a beginner start with? First, for Cloud Architect, if we're talking about our programs, it would be the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And it starts with a course number 1, and then a course number 2, and then a course number 3, so on and so forth.
And they're all in the same program, though.
Right.
They're all part of that program. It's everything from the beginning to how to interview for the job.
Yep.
And even negotiate a better salary.
Pop
a link to that course, please.
Chow already did. When Alexis asked the question, so she provided it to her when she asked the question. Kushal says this might not be the right question. Can you share the path to learn and some resources? So we're not sure what role you want. We need to know what role you want before we can provide any type of advice related to that. So if you can let us know in the next few seconds. I know there's quite a delay, about 5 seconds today, it seems like.
Yeah, latency is different.
Yeah, if you can let us know what your career goal is, we can provide some guidance there. But we wouldn't be able to begin
without knowing the destination.
And also invite you this evening, if possible, too, if you want to.
Kushal, you're saying learning path from basic to what? What's the learning path from basic to what? What's the end? We're not going to have a path to with no destination. Mike's analogy is essentially you're saying, I want to go fly when you get to the airport. That's what you're asking. And you're asking the person at the ticket counter to give you a ticket to somewhere, but you're not telling us where.
Yeah.
So
cloud engineer.
Okay. Cloud engineer.
Okay, so the learning path for a cloud engineer would be the following. Become a strong Linux engineer. And I don't mean a Linux admin, I mean a strong Linux engineer. Get training in the network and the data center. When you're done that, learn how to write Python scripts. When you're done that, learn how to write Windows PowerShell scripts. When you're done that, learn how to write Terraform scripts. And for cloud engineers, which are the exact opposite of architects, build, 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 and then build some more. The complete opposite of the architect.
And Lord Processor asked about the architect, and I'm going to suggest that they join tonight's webinar.
Because we're going to cover that in real depth.
James T, yes, we answered your follow-up question. Yes, watch the playback for sure. Let's see. Alexis says, is it hard to get a security clearance for those particular jobs that require them?
Not at all. It's nothing to get security clearance. Now, there's some cost to do it, but the best jobs generally don't require security clearance anyway. It's more of the lower paying jobs that require security clearance because they're more government-based jobs. Private enterprise pays far more than government jobs. So I've never gone for security clearance because there was no point. I could work for a third of the pay with security clearance, or actually take a job that paid 3 times more without getting security clearance. But I have lots of friends that do it. It costs $5,000 to $10,000 to pay for it. You get fingerprints and a few other things. You answer some questions. It's nothing. It's really nothing. But you can get paid a lot more with the non-security clearance jobs. And, at the end of the day, I'm an achiever. I'm not looking for a job where I can be a cog on a wheel. I'm looking for a job where I can make a big difference. And I can make a bigger difference, changing the healthcare system by working with a large group of hospitals, or for example, and I designed most of the U.S. healthcare systems, at least the networks beside them. I consulted to them, and most of the world's largest internet service providers and some of the world's largest banks, and they don't require security clearance. They also pay the best.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris is muted.
Those are all of our questions for the day. So we will wrap it up. I want to remind everybody that we've got our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar this evening. It will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to join us. We'll talk all about everything you need to know to become the ultimate cloud architect. And there is, we will give a very great answer to the question about the difference between a solution architect and a cloud architect. Mike, what is the difference between a solution architect and a cloud architect?
Other than the ability to get a job and not, so let's put it into context. A solution architect is someone that only knows a single cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's worthless now, and here's why. You can work at AWS, Microsoft, or Google as a solution architect, and only those three companies. But if you want to work for a consulting company, a bank, a healthcare organization, a global retailer, you need to be a cloud architect. 98% of customers use more than one cloud. 98%. And those 98% of people need cloud architects. With a cloud architect works with multiple clouds. The solution architect only knows a single cloud. Now, given that 98% are multi-cloud in today's world, there's only 3 companies that hire solutions architects, and they don't pay the most either. For example, 1 year Goldman Sachs gave the average employee a $600,000 bonus. Mm-hmm. Goldman Sachs can't hire solution architects. Why? They're a bank. They need multi-cloud. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Solution architect, one cloud. Cloud architect, every cloud. It's kind of like this. The solution architect is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's like saying, I'm going to get training to drive a Honda. But if it's a Toyota, a Mercedes, a BMW, a Tesla, I won't be able to drive. See, solution architects only learn the name of a service. They don't understand the underlying technology, how, what, where, and why. Now, we train cloud architects, and a lot of our cloud architects get hired by AWS or Microsoft as solution architects. Because as a cloud architect can be a solution architect, but a solution architect is going to need a lot of retraining to become a cloud architect. So join tonight. We'll teach you how to become the ultimate cloud architect, where you can work at any company, whether it be AWS, Azure, Microsoft, Apple, Google, JP Morgan Chase, BBC, Accenture, Deloitte. Guess what? We have graduates working in all these companies and then some bigger ones as well.
Yep. All right. So you heard it there from Mike. Join us tonight on our webinar to learn how to become the ultimate cloud architect. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing everyone tonight.
Me too.
Look forward to seeing everyone on tomorrow's Head in the Clouds episode, where we will be joined by NFL running back Reggie Bonifan. And we will do a compare and contrast of what it takes to be elite as it relates to his experience with professional football and with Mike's experience with being a executive and a enterprise cloud architect. So that will be a fun discussion. And then, of course, we also have our Secrets to Winning the Interview webinar that we will be holding on Friday. That will be at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you register for that as well. All of those links are in the chat box and in the description. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience while I'm working on the road here. Having a blast out here. Can't wait to get all this new content created. Looking forward to it. So thank you, everybody.
Take care. I look forward to seeing so many of you soon. Hopefully tonight.
All right. See you tonight. Bye-bye.
See you tonight.